Here we go. Hi, Warriors. Mike, Steve, Kman, how are you? Glenn, AJ, Ingmar, Mike, Paul, morning, Blake. Ingmar, how are you? Happy May Day. You communist. What's May Day? May Day, May Day. All right.
It's a holiday in the UK. That's why Ryan takes about 400 holidays throughout the course of the year. This is one of the days that he is not here out of the 365 days of the year. He takes 320 of them off. Even Kman can make it here on May Day. So thank you, Kman, for being here.
Yeah.
No problem. Good
What's
morning.
he doing? Dancing around a pole on May Day with anyway, I don't know what the customs are.
With
What
your
are they,
guest?
Kman? What do you celebrate? What's Ryan celebrating right now?
Uh, I've got no idea. It's just yeah.
What is it? Labor? Wasn't in Russia May
Well, I mean,
Day?
it was at the beginning, but then that got canceled, and then I don't know. It's just like a kind of spring bank holiday.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there's some strange action going on in Taiwan.
Everything is
Um,
strange.
what do you know what the story is? This big move up in the Taiwan dollar?
Well, despite what the Americans say, it seems like the market is thinking that they are going to get a deal on
Okay.
stuff, but still, I mean. I haven't seen personally that the those tariffs would be cancelled, but the Taiwanese central bank has intervened. Other dollar agents are getting sold as well. The HKMA has been buying dollar versus Hong Kong on the
Uh,
lower
uh,
end of their trading band as well. Dollar China is coming off.
They talk a lot about for years about the Hong Kong dollar coming off the peg. Is there a risk of that in this environment that we're in?
Look, I've tried it twice and it didn't work. So
All
um,
right.
no, they're going to defend it for as long, I think, that the Chinese asset market is not more mature. Um, there will be a time where I think they not maybe not totally abandon it, but I don't know what it's HKMA is still handling it, but we know the one country thing. In between Hong Kong and China. I'm not sure for how much longer Hong Kong dollar is still going to exist.
Okay.
It's not
Yeah.
today, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going through a lot of paradigm shifts, aren't we here?
Yeah, we are.
Massive. So we have a weaker dollar today, Kay.
Yo,
Do you think that was it for the dollar? I looked at it and, went to a resistance level. Personally, I don't think it's done. But I'm wrong all the time.
we have
Uh,
yeah, we have PMIs today. Then we have the Fed later this week.
yeah.
Uh, are we done? I'm not sure, but I think the what we're seeing is still a testimony of the market saying that they don't really believe too much of what Trump is doing, and he's scrambling back. You know what Besson said, like throw it there, throw enough uncertainty, and then negotiate. The market doesn't really like too much of it, and that's. We've seen it after the NFPs. There was a comeback on Friday in the dollar, but then you open on the Monday afterwards, and the jobs report is already forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think to reverse at one near 146 in the end. It was a big play, just, hard to like on Friday come out of being long something and saying, okay, I'm going to be short. That was the target. What do you think? Is it over this bounce in the end, or what do you think?
I think we are in the
It
range.
was a
I,
decent bounce.
I really think we're in the range. I'm actually a bit short yen myself, but not versus the dollar. I told you last week, right?
Yeah, it
I mean,
crosses.
sorry?
You're short the yen crosses now.
Yeah, I'm short yen versus Aussie right now. I jumped from one horse to the other. I was long sterling yen last week, then I jumped onto the Aussie yen at the end of last week. Also, the fact that Japan said that they won't use the bonds weapon against the US is probably having the yen markets in a bit of doubt, not really sure what to do. But then I look at risk, which is doing slightly okay, or shall we say doing a bit better. So um, I'm trying to find the best currency to be a bit long off against the yen, but the rejection, as you say, at 146 has been pretty big. Also, let's not forget that the yen with is still an Asian currency, right? So we see dollar Asia coming down quite hard. So I think there's a bit of a move in sympathy with the rest of the Asian currencies. But I'm not sure what the dollar yen wants to do. We could go back to that 142 and a half if the dollar is weak enough, but there it should be okay. I think we're in a broad range right now for the dollar yen.
Okay. So cable, a similar picture.
Yeah.
I still thought that we'd have, that we could still have a breakdown here before I'd want to buy the cable, and I'm not going to buy the euro here. I still think there'll be a chance down here. You don't have to be short. I happen to be short. I put a short out in the euro this morning, even though it could just, rally to do this that it didn't do last week. But I still think that the dollar has a chance to pop to, this 101 level, 101.20. And I think that's it. I
I
mean,
would, I
those,
would
huh?
personally, I'm still broad in the bigger scheme of things. I still think the dollar will weaken more, but I'm not in a hurry really to be short dollars either right now. And if I am, I've done it, but really short term via the Kiwi. I'm long a Kiwi call, a New Zealand dollar call. So that is something that I'm trading around right now. But I have very little short dollar cash positions. Let's put it that way.
I just want to point something out. The S&Ps had, I think it was 9 great days in a row. Was that it? Was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? It was more. I guess it depends where you start, but again, just a steady dollar, and this wasn't much of a steady dollar. I still think helped support that last rally in risk in U.S.
Yeah.
Indexes. So and now we're down pretty good today, and the S&Ps are you know, giving it up. So I think that correlation's still on. You need a stable to strong dollar to get rallies in the
Mm.
market. And
Yeah, that's the confidence trader.
yeah, I guess that's what you have. So
Mm.
we'll see. I mean, if this was it in the dollar, then maybe this is it in S&Ps. I still keep looking at this.
Yeah.
And one surprise, and 5,700 was pretty big. Look left.
Yeah.
I noticed it over the weekend. Um, so that 5,700, look at that.
Well, what is interesting, Dale, is as well, if you look at those correlations, is also that even though after the NFPs on Friday, there was a bit of scaling back on cut expectations for the Fed, and yet the dollar fails to really benefit from it for longer than
Yeah,
hours and for more than what is it, like half 1%, half percent,
yeah,
1%, and that is still telling us something about the mood in the markets towards the dollar. I think it's
yeah.
going
The
to be
dollar's the
very interesting.
weakest. dollar's a weak sister, followed by bonds, followed by S&Ps. The S&Ps are still the relative strength
Yeah.
of those three major U.S. dollar denominated trades, right? So
This if there is reduced risk on the bigger tariffs, I think it's probably a bit logic that the equity markets recovered. But I'm finding like S&P and stuff.
yeah,
We're getting into areas where we probably need to pay a bit of attention. If you rally, if you go back above 5,800, I think we may see all-time highs again. But in this zone here, 57 to 58, I'm going to be a bit cautious. Let's put it that way.
yeah, this could still, be a failing rally. Count Jim talked to me about that. This was just three waves. So
Yeah,
that's
three,
what the
four.
bulls are hanging their hat on for new highs, and this was
Mm,
four,
mm,
and there was a megaphone line. But why can't we have this be A, B, C for A, and we have a failing rally in here,
mm,
and then we get a C to new lows,
yeah,
and that, maybe June, July, um, and then we have a good market for the summer.
yeah. I,
That's my preferred
mm, I,
scenario.
yeah, I saw something interesting, and actually, somebody in the room even posted that. Is that some of those layoffs in for the government jobs and things, they are going to be paid and stay on
Yeah,
the payroll until what is it, August? So
yeah,
that brings us to August to really perhaps only then start to see the jobs market roll over. So then it may be a dangerous period for all things U.S. assets again, but that buys a lot of time.
that's interesting. So yeah, that also buys a lot of time for the bonds to break down
Mm,
under 85
it
and
does.
flush big time. I'm very, very bearish bonds. I don't know what sentiment is. I don't know if the market's still real short, have record shorts.
I don't
That's
know.
been the story for a year. Oh, it's record shorts. I'm not sure. They sure
Mm,
haven't been able to squeeze them much. This was your, flight to quality rally with a 30% decline in the Nasdaq. Not that impressive. All it did was get back to here, and the way it gave it back told me there's trouble in River City.
yeah,
The Japanese are really pissed at these trade negotiations. I heard a guy make a comment. He says, Japan should have been the easiest.
yeah,
They
exactly.
did a deal in 2018,
Mm,
and the Japanese are calling it extortion,
mm.
and they're throwing their 1 trillion U.S. Treasury holdings into the negotiations.
Well, actually, they've said over the weekend that they won't use it against the US.
They won't? Well, okay.
No, that's what
So
Kyoto said.
really, why that's interesting. So they pulled
Mm,
back on that. Must have gotten a phone call about that. It's
yeah,
see how it is. I mean, it's almost like kids on a playground.
yeah.
They're fighting with each other, and then they're best friends.
Pretty
You know,
expensive playground, eh?
yeah.
A
But
trillion,
I mean,
a
that's
trillion
how.
dollar trip playground.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but I mean the
mm,
behavior.
mm,
It's
mm,
kind of, So I mean, I just saw those news stories yesterday. So within 24 hours, that's walked back.
mm,
It sat out there for several days because people have been writing about it.
yeah.
So thanks for getting me out current on the melodrama.
Yeah.
How you doing today, Blake?
I'm good. I'm good. It's Monday. And I was harassing Ryan and everybody that's off for May Day, but we have Labor Day weekend too, which is coming up in a few weeks, I guess. I always remember that
You
because
mean
it's at the end
Memorial
of
Day?
we have Memorial Day. We also
Yeah.
have, oh yeah, Memorial Day is in a few weeks. Labor Day is actually in September. But we still have a very similar type of holiday. But whatever. It is Monday. It's going to be a busy week. You were talking about you guys were chatting about like the Taiwan dollar. I mean, look at what's happening in other Asian currencies. Here, I'll
I
grab it
got
just
it.
to, yeah, I'll grab the charts here. I mean, we were just looking at, obviously you guys are talking about the dollar yen. It's interesting, right, Kman? I mean, we're right back to where we started. We're at really important support. Who knows what's going to happen with Japan and the US? But just taking a look at looking at, here's the Taiwan dollar. You can see how the dollar is just free falling, right? Then you got, the Singapore dollar and like the Korean won. Now, obviously, the U.S. dollar, Hong Kong dollar, still pegged, and the CNH to a certain extent. So they're not seeing quite as big of a move. But this would be, in my opinion, it kind of feels like you have a situation where these Asian central banks are just when they're supporting they're trying to stop their currencies from appreciating, and then it's kind of like the what Swiss National Bank did with the Swiss franc, and they're just like F it, let's let it go a little bit, and that's what it feels like to me, that we're just seeing these central banks kind of step out of the way a little bit. And that's a little scary to me. Again, it's you're seeing the dollar, kind of buckle underneath its own weight, if you will. So I think it's going to be an interesting week to watch, to see how. I know we don't have full liquidity this week, but you remember a couple weeks ago got our attention. It happened in Asia, where you saw the stock market under pressure, you saw the bond market under pressure, and despite yields going up, you saw the dollar under pressure. I don't want to see that again. And as a U.S. person, citizen, investor, American, I don't want to see that again. But my fear is we might see that percolate again, and then you're gonna hear those fears of, oh my gosh, anything US is being sold. We're not quite there yet, but I think that's where I start raising an eyebrow, is when things like this start happening. This is why we have to pay attention. That's why I would be watching the euro. Euro is still holding its breakout point. Yes, we still have a head and shoulder pattern. Michael, in our general chat room, this is the trades room, but in the general chat room, Michael and I were just having a conversation about the dollar. Yeah. So here's the dollar yen. I was posting that chart earlier, talking about this. We're at the 38% retracement. Michael goes, yeah, this is a bear flag, you know, pattern for the dollar just in general. And I'm like, yeah, I see it too. This is the chart that I see. It's not my base case at this moment, but you got to watch the dollar. If the dollar starts selling off and we get the euro, breaking through this resistance, you've got to ignore that there was a setup here. There was a lot of people looking at, potential dollar weakness, or excuse me, euro weakness, dollar strength. I was hoping. If you saw the week ahead video, all I really want to do right now is buy the dollar back here at 111.50. That's why I was looking for a dip, so this head and shoulder pattern wouldn't complete, for a move going in the opposite direction. I'm a little scared after the price action this weekend, especially with the dollar against some of these Asian currencies, that we might not get that. We might just get the euro taking off again, and that's something that I'm paying attention to for the week. Again, we have the Fed, and I should stop and ask Kman, since we do have the Fed this week. We got the Bank of England this week. How do you have any expectations from the Fed? Are they going to push back
No,
and
not
push back
pushing back, just
expectations?
say we need a bit more information, we need confirmation. The
Right.
jobs report hasn't given them anything for a reason to cut. Now, the non-direct duet he had with Besant over the past weeks, he may say something about bond markets also. But no, he shouldn't be saying too much. They should be on hold right now. Um, but that may just hold the dollar from going down much until the Fed, perhaps. And then after the Feds, maybe a very dangerous period for the dollar. That is what I'm thinking. And if you look at gold, it's pointing at that as well. We are right back above 3,300.
Yep.
I think a lot has to do with those Asian currencies, right? That's one thing, and then the other thing is as well. This mounting tension again, Middle East, and then India and Pakistan, and so yeah, it seems that the gold market is telling us that nothing's over until it's over.
Okay, so that's yeah. I mean, and you pull up or you bring up a great subject with this move in gold too. I mean, gold looks like it is at it again, and one of the things, Dale, you always talk about the silver gold ratio, right? And I know you discuss it all the time here. It's something that's, it's like, kind of a one of your important pieces of analysis. But one of the things about the gold silver ratio that always gets me is this divergence that you get with when gold silver ratio takes off. It's usually a really negative thing for equities. And you've seen it here, gold silver ratio back in, this is obviously
Yeah.
the GFC,
Good
there when the stock
discovery.
market.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I've always
That's
kind of
another
noticed it.
reason why I think the S&Ps can revisit the lows because I
Yeah,
think
I
the
think
gold silver ratio has a third drive coming in it. If you widen your charts a little bit, you'll see two of them.
there's one, there's two,
Yeah,
so
there
maybe a
you go.
third.
Right.
Yeah, and the S&P's at really, really, really nasty resistance here. I know I just posted it on. Let me get rid of this really quick. I just posted it on. Did I even post it on Twitter? I know I posted in the chat rooms here. I'll just read it for you guys in the chat room. So you go over to the S&P room here, and we're talking about the European bourses outperforming the S&P, which has been a theme for a while. But here's the S&P here, and we are nearing a lot of key resistance. And I like to explain this to people when we're going to, if everybody's looking at the 200 DMA, which is right here, everybody's like, oh, that's resistance. Well, what people start doing is people start lining up their sell orders ahead of these big levels, and then they start thinking, well, I'm going to be smarter than the next guy. The guys over at Deutsche Bank, they're trying to sell over here, so I'm going to try to sell ahead of them. And then they're like, oh well, those guys at Goldman, they're trying to sell there, I'm going to try to sell over here. And City's like, well, I'm going to sell here. So you start matching up all of these sell orders, and next thing you know, you never quite reach the technical level that everybody's looking for. I mean, I know we're heading into a big resistance level, and I just think that we are at risk of really stalling around here. I'm not brave enough to just start laying into shorts at this moment, but I think those are the risks at this point in time when you're talking about the S&P. And as Dale was just saying, with that gold silver ratio, with it ripping right now, maybe the S&P does fall short of all these key levels that everybody's talking about. Anyway, it's just something that I've been thinking about over the weekend. One of those things that I just kind of been pondering. So we got a few minutes. I see Steve is here. Steve, are you here? Do you want to chime in a little bit about anything that you see in the markets? He may be here, may not be here. He might actually be here and just in technology wise. Yeah, it looks like he might not be in front of his desk. All right, well, and that's all right. Kman, what are you thinking? What do you want to do this week? How do you want to play this week? And Dale, I'll come to you next.
I think the commodity currencies are still looking good. They are not that far from Asia, right? So they may get a little bit of sympathy demand. The Aussie, the elections have confirmed Albanese keeping the lead, and everything is going all right. So I think the Aussie is one of those that I think is continuing to do well, same as the Kiwi. Those are two that I kind of like still this week. And yeah, for the rest, I'm, I don't have strong convictions on stuff like euro dollar or dollar yen. I just see that we always fall short of the good supports on whether it's euro dollar or cable even. You don't go visit the 112 and a half, 112.20, 112.70. We haven't seen it on the euro dollar to buy into. The cable, same thing, go down to 132 and a half, but you don't go down to 132 the figure. That still means that there's underlying bids there. So I'm thinking that give me a dollar rally because of the market thinking that the Fed won't move. If that's the reason, then I think it's a counter trade to have.
Okay, and let's not forget that there's still some pretty good there's still some pretty good earnings today. We were just there's a big company, well, big, relatively speaking, PLTR, a more of a meme stock, I like to say. They're reporting earnings today, and actually Michael Brown from Pepperstone, he was just saying in the chat room, and you know, he's just saying a 12% implied move is, for PLTR after market, which is, I mean, you think about like 12% like in either direction here. That is, hold on, let me get rid of this thing. That would be $15 either way. Something like that. That's a big potential move in PLTR. Just wanted to bring that up just because I know we're running out of time. Dale, what are you thinking this week? How you want to trade this week?
Well, I was looking for the dollar to maybe finish its rally, but it may have done that already. So I have to reassess. So I'm still bearish of bonds. I'll fade any in TLT. Uh, if the Fed says anything that could give them a pop, I'll add on to my short position. That's the main thing I'm thinking about this week.
Okay. All right. Well, for me, I'm like you, Kman. I don't have a huge conviction of the dollar. I see both arguments technically, and I could see
Yeah.
probably both arguments, from a more of a, actually, I don't even see, I never really have a bullish dollar argument right now, so I'm more of a bear. But I think we're gonna get our answers the middle of this week. I think that's what I'll be looking at. Dale, I met with Jim Welsh this week or on Friday. He thinks gold's going to 2,600. I'm not in that camp, but I was like, really?
Yeah, the
That's
confirmed high bothers me. But
yeah, this one right here.
yeah, and I guess the test will be after this dollar rally's over. If it is already, I still think we could go to 96, 95. So what's gold going to do then is what I'm thinking after this dollar bounce is over, and we're heading
Yeah,
for wave 5 lows in Dixie. It should be
yeah.
supportive of the metals, you would think.
You would think so. I would think so
Not the
too.
market, not the market, but not equities, but metals, commodities. It should be.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing for me. I think you could almost time your silver buy based upon the gold silver ratio, making that one more push to new highs, and see where silver's at, and probably just buy it, because no matter what happens, silver's going to start to outperform gold, and you have people the other way pretty heavily, disgusted with silver and enamored with gold. So it could be a big trade the other way.
Yeah, maybe it is. I don't know. I don't, oh, who
I don't
knows?
know.
Anyway, I know you have a guest. Excuse me. I know you have a guest
Oh
this
yeah, here he
morning.
is.
Okay, you
Yeah,
found him.
can you promote? Let's see if I could do it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
not.
got it. I got it.
I'm not host, I don't think. I'm just,
Okay.
yeah.
So
So
I've got
Dale,
I've got Thomas here.
all right, cool. And I just want to say, everybody, thanks for being here today. Remember, we have ISM services data today. It's one of those weeks that ISM comes out after the jobs report. So pay attention to that. I think people are going to be watching the jobs component of the ISM. Kman, I want to thank you for being here for the holiday. I know it's a holiday in the UK, and I like to harass Ryan for not being here because he harasses us when we take Thanksgiving off.
There's
And
a
so
difference. There's a difference between workaholics and alcoholics. Huh?
well, Ryan might be, yeah, definitely an alcoholic. Yes, yes,
Right.
correct.
Have a great week, everybody.
You do the same, K man. We'll see you tomorrow and see you on the Flow Show. For those of you guys that don't listen to Ryan and K man on the Flow Show, listen to them tomorrow morning. They'll be on. And Dale, have a great interview. Thanks everybody for being here today. I'll be on the morning edge with the Forex Analytics traders, building out the bias chart for the day. So I'll see you guys in about 45 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Blake. Thank you,
Thanks,
Kay.
Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Good start for the week. And another great start for the week is our friend Thomas Mellon. How are you, Tom?
Hi, I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
Good, buddy. So here we are. Lots happened since you and I last talked, right? Tariffs, tension,
Yeah,
big stock market sell-off, huge recovery. What
yeah.
are you thinking on this Monday morning?
Yeah, many things. I maybe we could start with the US growth,
Okay.
actually, if
All
you
right.
don't mind. Okay, I just
Okay. All
um,
right. Let's talk about it.
someone else is sharing. I could share some.
Oh, you want to share? Go ahead.
Yeah,
All right. Got it. That was me.
no problem. Uh,
Are
yeah.
we in a recession in the U.S. already?
Let's
Some
let's
say
return to
no.
this. Let's return to this.
Okay.
The first quarter GDP nowcasts were like all over the place. This is a listing of the three major US the Federal Reserve banks and us. The last estimates on the 29th of April. And the figure was minus 0.3. And we had the closest 0.4. So we won.
Okay. Nice.
So yeah, but the thing is that if you look at these like New York Fed, St. Louis Fed, and Fed of Atlanta,
Right. That was
does
down
does that
four.
make yeah does
Yeah.
that make that doesn't make any freaking sense? What's the like? It's 4.5% percentage points is the gap. It's unbelievable. It should not be like this.
Okay. All
So this
right.
is well, this is yeah, this is a this it was been a it has been a very strange quarter, or it was, and there was this massive like front running of tariffs with the U.S. Trade balance falling to lows we haven't seen, well, basically almost forever.
Yeah.
So so there
Yeah.
was this, yeah. So and the markets dropped like we actually had warned that they would probably drop in April, and then recovered.
Yeah.
And
It's like it was a dream
yeah, and but it also does not make any sense
for the
because
recovery.
yeah, because we are anywhere you look, recession. It says recession basically is coming. So markets are rallying for why? So I think there's liquidity being pumped into the markets from somewhere,
Okay.
at least from China. So
Okay. Well, the Fed said when the bonds were under pressure during the crash, where they were still selling off,
mm,
instead of getting a bid, and TLT went to 85. I think it was 2 weeks ago on a Wednesday, the
mm,
Fed came out with a statement, we will provide liquidity.
yeah,
And it stopped the hemorrhaging in the bond market.
yeah,
So the bond market's a bigger problem than the stock market, isn't it?
of course, of course. If bond markets start to act, then we're screwed. Everyone is screwed. So
Do you
it's not.
think the Japanese, you think any of our, I mean, I heard Japan walked it back, but they were going to use their, trillion-dollar holding of treasuries as as a negotiating
We of course do.
tool.
We don't know what's happening in the background in the
No, we
negotiation.
don't. No, we're
But
blind.
but the people what people should understand that treasuries are used as collateral in the financial sector all over the world,
Right,
everywhere. So
right.
if those collapse, well, everything goes almost.
Okay,
So
so be taking
so
it wouldn't just be taking the U.S. down,
no,
be
and
taking everything down. It's a nuclear
every
option.
well, basically, yeah. And President Trump enacting trade war in a massively well, let's say heavily matured economy, which haven't has seen an actual recession since 2009, and now you put a trade war in it. It's not a it's policy only made to crash the economy.
So is this intentional?
I don't know, but it's just
Are you as happy as you were after the election?
no, no. The two reasons we go to the next one yet, but I have the consumer confidence. You know, you have everybody has seen it. This is a collapse,
Yeah,
but you know this unique expected change in prices during the next year of the
yeah,
mean of it, the household. This is bollocks.
yeah.
Honestly, this is like, and people are saying there is no inflation. Okay, okay, and inflation is coming down. I said, okay, but what are these people seeing?
Who are these people? These are households.
Households, yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
you
they're
see,
seeing it in their everyday life of shopping and everything like that.
yeah, they see it, and the thing is that when they think like this, they are gonna save. They like
Yeah,
buy what they need now, and then they stop.
right,
And so the U.S. corporations and U.S. households have probably been front loading.
right.
So
But
these
yeah, now
these
they're broke.
yeah, and we will see something of a bounce this quarter. That's almost certain because some of the front loading goes away. In
Yeah.
tariff, the trade balance improves. But the third quarter, that's the quarter when the U.S. recession is likely to begin. So
Okay.
it's just one quarter
That's
away.
okay. That kind of gives me, I've heard, yeah, I know guys that use cycles and so forth, and a lot of people like that believe that the stock market bottomed and that we're going to new all-time highs. They're
No.
talking about
Well,
it holding together until August, the
if
market,
well,
and making new highs.
yeah, it's possible if Beijing and U.S. Well, Federal Reserve and U.S. Treasury, you know, pump liquidity in the bond markets to buy stuff.
Yeah.
So it is
Well,
possible.
what do you make out of? Isn't that what the Treasury Secretary said? I think a week ago that the Treasury is ready to buy bonds.
Yeah, to adjust the buyback program. How was the actual wording? Yeah,
Okay, so
but
buy more, but support the market. In
yeah,
other words,
they are preparing for a catastrophe. That's basically the only way to read it.
okay, yeah, that's what I said. What they worried about when I
Well,
heard that.
yeah. And I think now that the President Trump is actually losing control of all the events in the world now as we speak. I
Yeah,
think
Russia.
Russia, Ukraine,
Yeah,
Iran, you know,
yeah,
I don't, there are a lot of speculation of how close Houthis were sinking an U.S. aircraft carrier in the Red Sea last week. Wild speculations I have heard that
like
yeah. Well, if
like what? It was a false flag. It didn't happen.
no, but it did happen, but
Okay,
it was avoided by in a very with a very small margin.
okay,
And if a U.S. you know aircraft carrier is sunk in the Middle East, what will happen next?
yeah.
So, and if there's a war in the Middle East, then we go to economic depression.
All right.
Honest,
Well, how does Pakistan and India fit into the? You know, this came out of nowhere. I
Yeah,
mean, historically, it's always been there,
yeah.
but we didn't have that incident of those people getting killed, and now India's diverting rivers, and everyone's trying to calm them down. And even people are lining up. China is lining up behind Pakistan.
Mhm.
I don't know where we stand, but uh, they have nukes.
They have, yeah. And if India is trying to become the new China as a manufacturing hub, this is not really, you know,
It's not good for them.
no, and it's not spreading confidence. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
move our factories to, India, and what's the new
Yeah,
thing?
I mean, Apple, that's where they want to go, and now
Mm,
it's on the verge of conflict.
yeah.
But I heard the Chinese were not the parts they need to reshore in India are made in China, and China's in no hurry to provide those
Probably
to
not.
Apple.
Yeah, probably
So
not.
besides gold, what do we do here? Just is it time to move into other commodities like oil?
No, I
Oil's
don't know.
pretty cheap.
No, I don't. The everything with the oil, everything depends now. What happened? What Israel and the Trump plan to do or
Yeah,
will do in
yeah,
there. So it's a I don't know, because if nothing happens there, but there's a recession, so that means that the oil will go down even
yeah,
further. So
right.
you have it can go to even 30 or 20.
Yeah.
Or then in the worst, in the other way, it can go to 200. So you can, if
We
you
have
want to play in
everything's
the casino,
binary.
well, yeah,
Everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
basically no. If you want to play in the casino, then oil is I think it's a great speculative bet now. You can you can lose again a lot. So if you
Yeah,
want
you
to
could buy
play,
options like I did and just
yeah,
lose to find them out.
that's the
Do you think Israel's going to hit them after the airport got hit?
I don't know. Yeah, it was a
Everything's I don't know. Let
yeah.
me ask you this. How comfortable do you feel saying these words that people choke on X? I don't know, and I was wrong.
Well, yeah, you have to say
I've
those.
never heard
You
you
have
be
you no,
uncomfortable.
well, you have to say those occasionally, because
Yeah.
everybody's wrong
How
occasionally.
about I'm always wrong?
No, I won't
Anyway,
go there. No, no,
I'm
no.
always early. Anyway,
No, but
so
honestly, I would hold just gold and cash till, let's say,
yeah, yeah,
June, late June, early July, just to see what happens.
yeah,
You
yeah. I
you may
think
miss
yeah,
the rally, but if Warren Buffett is still building cash reserves, you may want
yeah.
to buy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, he missed maybe a year or so of the bull, but
Yeah,
when I knew he was real, I knew he was shedding Apple stuff, but it was before the crash where I read that he liquidated all ETFs, which that meant he wasn't just worried about a company. He got out of his exposure out of the S&P,
yeah,
and that meant he was bearish everything.
yeah.
So anyway, it's going to be some great trade. There have been great trades. The short was great. The recovery was great.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, what do you think of the dollar? It's bouncing a little bit. You think the dollar has a long way to fall?
It
And
could. Also, it could. It could. The problem is now that we are, like you said, we are in a binary world, and we are driven by these, I would say, a rather erratic decisions in
yeah,
White House and in Europe.
yeah,
So there's like in everything almost there are two extreme options, or good or bad. And we at this point it's almost impossible to see what will come. We just have to usually I would I would say that it's usually the way that Warren Buffett is doing, prepare for the worst. Because the biggest like gains are done or are achieved in and around crisis. So in those times you make the biggest profits, either when they fall and or when the markets start to rise. So yeah, so like if you want to play short, then historically for the past 10 years, there has been a major liquidity injection coming from China in May and June. And I just estimated it few days ago when it would hit, and it looked at around 20 May. It has usually appeared in the markets. And after that, a rally has resumed, which has continued till the end of June. So we may get a summer rally. But then in July and June, if the in June there are both the tariff deadline and the deadline also for the Iran nuclear deal. So
in June or July?
Yeah, in June.
July, isn't it April? We delayed it 90 days, April.
Oh yeah, that's
From
July.
April
So
9th.
again, June and July. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
July.
June and July. But you know, there could be a really toxic combination for the markets and for the world in coming in summer.
Okay, so where do you think what do you think Putin does? Just continues the war? You think he's picking out other targets, or
No,
his military isn't in the position to
let me have what I've
spend?
wrote today. Just give me a sec. There. This has been just like I just published it a few hours ago. So, though this is on the my current thinking that President Trump is failing in Ukraine.
Yeah.
There's an interesting, well, you know, well, this first the president. How I define the position of President Zelensky. He is corrupted. Almost everyone knows that, but I think what I heard from professors who you know study Ukraine is that these fascist factions there, if Zelensky tries to make peace or concessions to Russia, he will probably get murdered, or that at least there's a military coup, so he cannot do it. And thus, the only way to end the war is either President Trump or President Putin remove Zelensky and these fascist factions from Ukraine. And it's the strangest thing, like these fascist groups, they were all like decimated after the Second World War in everywhere in Europe except in Ukraine. It's really strange. And I heard about this, that there are these factions only just like 2 months ago or something. But the point being now that President Trump doesn't seem to want to remove or oust Zelensky. He made a deal. So what's the option? The option is that, you know, Russia declares war on Kiev and goes all in, basically.
Okay, I read that they're getting a dome, Kiev. So they must be worried about it. Like, you know, like the Patriots, like what Israel has.
Yeah.
So you know, that's a little change of heart for Trump.
Yeah, it is. And this is actually, this is rather interesting. This is just, I noticed today, this is one Russian war blogger, which I follow. He has been correct on almost everything and excellent. It's a simplicious thinker. But anyway, this is the graph of area captured by Russia in each month. And you noticed it reaches a peak in November when Trump won the US presidential election. Then comes down till February and starts to pick up again in March and April. I'm reading this in a way that in November, Russia thought that, okay, now there is Putin thought that there's a possibility of peace through negotiations. And in March, when basically the already failed, or before already failed, a truce proposition was presented in the Russian counterpart in Jeddah, in Saudi Arabia. It's just, I think the Russians lost faith, and now it's picking up again the territorial gains of Russia. And I think this is an implication that, or this hints that Moscow is transferring from the idea that they could find a peace through negotiations to that they need to seek peace through capitulation of the Zelensky
Yeah.
regime.
Okay.
And if we go there, that's it. That's also not a good thing. But I think it's better than let the war just go on, because the longer we have a kind of regional war in Europe, the higher the likelihood that it will spread. It will become a continental war, which if Europe gets or falls into a war, it will the rest of the world will follow. We know that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is like I don't. The first they usually say that the first 100 days are worst for any president. And it seems that it holds also for President Trump, who has now the second term after a pause. But it's not looking good. And in all of this, when you look all of this, what's happening, I still keep advocating for gold. I think if these, like now we have these trends which are converging to a place where we would have a depression and a wider war, in the worst case in the Middle East. I think in that case gold will go simply to the roof, to 5,000 to 6,000 even.
Okay.
So
Yeah, good.
cash and gold and oil and weapons and ammunition and food and water and yeah, okay. But
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
So you have to be a preppy in this environment.
yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. And like in you, do you
You
know?
know what I wanted to ask you, Thomas? I'm
Oh,
glad it came back into my head, and that's why I interrupted you, because I would forget it.
okay. You
The
just
power outage
yeah.
in Spain and Portugal that they're blaming on a lack of energy because it was coming from green energy. Do you buy that?
No, I seen the report, the leaked report of
I
the.
mean, was that a test to see how the populations would respond to
It is
2 days
possible.
without power? Huh?
It is possible, but it also showed the instability they have built into our network through the introduction of renewables into it. You know
Was
what?
it a cyber attack though?
But everything I have seen, it doesn't look like that. It is
Huh.
just when there is a spike from, let's say, renewables into the electricity grid. I read this from one of the analysts who has.
Forex Gal says false flag trial run.
It could be. It is very much possible. But the interesting thing is that how they can complete or make the grid failure happen, and it's just they remove enough. What's the English word? Well, power factories you can drive down. And if there's a
Yeah.
spike coming from renewables, from sun, from wind, whatever, which the rest of the system cannot absorb, the factories, the grids are going to shut down. So
Yeah.
they basically, if this is a false flag or just an operation to shut down the grid, they show how they will do it. So the renewables are the way to crash our electricity grids. And we were back 10 years ago, we were doing electricity price forecast for some Finnish firms, and I met a lot of the energy or the manager of energy factories, and I remember a few of them warning that the renewables will make our electricity grid unstable. So
Okay.
we are there, and you have to prepare also for the failure, of the electricity grid. And it's just
Okay.
simply and this is the order of things you need to have. First, you need to have water, then you need to have cash, then you need to have light, then you need to have heat if possible, and then food and other stuff after that. But you
Yeah.
have to make sure that you have water and you have cash, because nothing works and you still have to buy stuff
Yeah.
unless you live in the woods. But
Where you go hunting.
yeah, you go hunting and you probably have your ground cellar full of every
Yeah.
kinds of goods. But that's how you need to have water and gas, basically, and
Okay.
light if it's summer, if it's winter. So people,
And you're better off with smaller denomination bills, right?
yeah, smaller, under 50, either
Yeah.
euros or dollar.
Because you'll end up, no one will have change. You'll just be
Yeah,
overpaying for
yeah,
everything.
you have to have small denominated bills.
How about silver coins if they're worth, $50?
Well, if you have to move your possessions, then those are good things that you know.
Well, cash is a possession too.
Yeah, but if you have to, I mean, if you have to move from your home to other location, then you silver coins are good because you can pay a larger sums with those, and it's
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Anyway, when's this going to happen? By the summer
I would, if something
or
comes,
the fall?
I would say fall.
Okay.
If something comes, but and this is, you have to remember, I think I said this before, European wars have always started between 22nd June and 1st of September. So when you enter that period, it's always a risk that there's a bigger war engulfs Europe.
Okay. There's a
And
lot of things pointing towards that time frame.
it is,
June, July, a lot of cycles.
Those, and then there's a kind of reports, rumors from here and there that Russia is preparing for something major. Like there would be over 200,000. I just read that there would be over 200,000 North Korean troops already in around Ukraine. So if they're gonna crash, if they're gonna like across the Zelensky regime, it will be a brutal few months.
And like trying to overrun the Ukrainian army into Kiev.
Yeah. But the thing is that when there was a massive Russian offensive or Soviet offensive in the summer of 44 between the war in a war between Finland and Soviet Union, our leadership then understood that, okay, we cannot take this anymore. And they capitulated before the whole country was lost.
Yeah.
I think
I
that's
saw a movie about a guy who, there's a movie out, Thomas, and it was Finland. I forgot. You must know the guy who's pretty famous. He worked in the the counter,
intelligence
against the Nazis, in Finland. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Might have.
Number 24. That's it. He had a number.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was 24
okay.
was his number as a resistance fighter.
Yeah, okay.
And this guy's a Finn. You should see that movie. It's great.
Yeah, okay, what's the name of the movie?
I think 24. That's
24.
I think that's the number they gave him as
I have to check it, yeah.
Yeah. So
anyway.
he talks about, him and his friends all felt everything was cool. He was, talking to a bunch of university students as an older guy. And he said, we all thought we were okay until the minute we weren't.
Yeah.
That's how it happened. He said only 800 German troops took over the whole country.
Yeah.
So that's what you were talking about. It was, capitulate.
Capitulate. But there are a difference between, complete failure and capitulation on the demands.
Yeah.
And the Russian demands they are very what Kremlin wants. They are very consistent.
Yeah.
And we just have to, but the point being here that we have to, going into summer, we have to prepare for major shocks. We cannot guarantee that those will come, but you absolutely have to prepare for them. Okay. That's the message.
You know what'll be a real shock?
What?
When you and I have a 30-minute conversation about how wonderful things are going to become.
Yeah, I'm waiting for that to happen.
Yeah, I think we have to wait until the end of the fourth turning.
Something like that. Yeah,
it's probably going to get worse before it gets better.
It looks like that. Yes, it looks like that. And the most important thing is that it will get worse until people in sufficient quantities wake up and start to object what is happening. That's how it's going to go.
And that'll happen when there are empty shelves and they're paying a lot for everything.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we had the first problems with the with beef here in Finland, in Helsinki. I warned about that in 5 years ago. They are letting our farms go to hell, and so yeah, it's it's
Well,
all
they
coming
have the
down,
bird
man.
flu. They
No,
have
no,
the
no.
bird.
No, it's just it's been a gradual decline.
Oh, of the herd.
No, it's of the farming business.
Oh, okay.
It's a story for another thing. We are done with that time, but
Okay.
yeah, but still, it was. Yeah, there are markers everywhere, basically, that these things that are making our lives worse, they are prepared and planned for a very long time.
Yeah.
So we have to remember that too.
All right. Build a silo, everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
And not for a nuke, for your
Oh,
grain.
yeah.
So thank you, buddy. Good talking to you and catching up with you. Stay safe and get a hold of me if you ever see anything you want to talk about, and
Yeah,
we'll get you on. Okay, bro?
it's a great.
All right. So Thomas Mellinen, everyone go to his it's a what page where would they go to get your work, Thomas?
Just put Tuomas Malinen on geopolitics and the economy in the Google, and you'll find me there. Or in X, just Tuomas
Yeah,
Malinen.
at
You
MT
will find me.
Mellinen.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. Well, thank you, buddy.
Thanks.
And everyone, count your blessings and not just pips. I hope you make some today, though, and have a great day. Uh, thank you very much, Thomas. Check his work out. You get a European view. Donna's saying thank you, and that's going to be a wrap. Adios, everyone. See you for Turnaround Tuesday. Thanks, Thomas.